Good morning, solidarity, and shalom. It is great to see everyone. Thank you for those who tune in live, and thanks for those who are watching later. I appreciate you. Today, we're going to start on a topic that has been in demand for a long time. And as I've explained in community tabs and videos over time, I don't debate when it comes to existing socialism, but I can help clarify existing socialism, which is what we're going to try to do here today. Now, in China, people, we know about Mao Zedong thought. A lot of people know about New Democracy and Deng Xiaoping thought. But what a lot of people don't know about is a concept or sort of an ideological standpoint called the Three Represents. Now, the Three Represents is an idea that it was codified under the Chinese Communist Party during the paramount leadership of Comrade Jiang Zemin, who was the third paramount leader in the history of China. Now, Jiang Zemin, not a lot is known about him outside of the West, except for that he oversaw the return of, he helped oversee the return of Hong Kong and Macau and to China from Portugal and the UK. But he actually was the first generation of the party that was not a part of the Revolutionary Wars. So this was, someone who spent most of their life living under socialism, though the first part of his life, he, of course, was young and lived under the warring times. But regardless, let's get to the task at hand. Now, what is the Three Represents? Well, the Three Represents is really the clarification of the praxis of the Chinese Communist Party during the era of Jiang Zemin. And this praxis was codified into the idea of the Three Represents on the 25th of February in the year 2000. But the thing about Chinese ideas like Mao Zedong thought, Deng Xiaoping thought, scientific outlook on development, Xi Jinping thought, and what we're speaking about now, the Three Represents, is that these ideas are organic processes within China that are then recognized by the party and clarified by the party using Marxism-Leninism. And the Three Represents is one of these clarifications. And if you have to the Three Represents, what are the Three Represents? You have to be very, if you want to be very basic about it, the Three Represents are: one, representing the development trend of China's advanced productive forces; two, representing the orientation of China's advanced culture; and three, representing the fundamental interests of the overwhelming majority of the Chinese people. Now, these are the three represents in which the Chinese Communist Party represents the masses through the developmental trend of the advanced productive forces, through the orientations of China's culture, and through the popular will of the people. And I think that this, to explain this a little better, it's sort of a reiteration of the Chinese Communist Party's role as the vanguard and its re-centralization of power after the opening up of the 80s and the early 90s. So I think if we're going to understand the three represents a little better, I'm going to give a little bit of background to, you know, what happened before for the Chinese Communist Party to even reiterate this statement in the first place. Like, why would they need to say that, you know, they represent the people through their control of productive forces, through the direction of the culture, and through the will of the people? Like, it seems sort of a given. What does this mean in praxis? Well, we have to look at China's founding and the fact that China wasn't founded as a pure proletarian state, but as a new democracy, as Mao Zedong called it. New democracy is a state that allows the limited existence of things like the peasantry, limited existence of things like the petit bourgeois and the bourgeois, under the control of the proletariat and the Communist Party. I mean, that's what the Chinese flag stands for. The big star is the Communist Party, and the four stars are the four classes: the peasantry, the proletariat, the petit bourgeois, and the bourgeois. And this is new democracy. And new democracy was established because China was a semi-feudal, semi-colonial society that had not even come close to creating the productive forces needed to create socialism in 1949. So that's the path Mao and China chose. And Mao said it could take a century for us to truly reach, you know, a proletarian stage. And well, actually, China's on track to reach that proletarian stage in less than a century, which is amazing. Just really one of the most mind-blowing forms of development in human history. And so we have new democracy that arose. And as new democracy arose, Mao Zedong thought was codified and then distorted throughout the 60s and 70s. And it wasn't until Deng Xiaoping came, and Deng Xiaoping thought is basically the reiteration of new democracy and the opening up to the outside world, which China wasn't a closed-off state before the Cultural Revolution. This was an ultra-leftist thing, closing off the country. So opening up to trade and to people in general, and to the reiteration of new democracy and the reiteration of new democracy. Now, of course, this is called revisionism by Maoists, not realizing that Deng Xiaoping thought is really, really carrying on the torch and legacy of Mao Zedong. Now, the three represents, they come along and are reiterated in the year 2000 after this opening up. And it's telling the people, we are going to double down our grip on the productive forces. We are going to continue to promote this advanced Chinese culture, and we are going to do it along the lines of the will of the people in a very democratic way. So, why was this a reiteration? Why did this even need to be said? Well, because this is the time of the proletarianization. The peasantry is gone in China. You have farm workers, but no longer is there a peasantry. The proletarianization of Chinese society has happened. There are billions of workers in China. The productive forces exist for socialism. So this is a reiteration of the fact that we have completed the first stage of new democracy. We are now on the next stage of building a proletarian one. The first stage is new democracy. Now they are building a proletarian democracy. If by the year 2000, they are representing the fundamental interest of the overwhelming majority of the Chinese people, and Chinese society has become proletarianized, then we are reaching what is known as a proletarian democracy. The three represents is the party coming out and stating that through our actions, we will show you, and we are showing you, that we are reaching a new stage in the development of China and the development of socialism. This is a proletarian democracy. And now you see to this very day, through scientific outlook on development, which we'll talk about soon, and into Xi Jinping thought, we see this idea of the proletarian democracy is really what is happening in China right now. And this all started, this idea of the shift starting was codified in the year 2000 by Jiang Zemin, one of the least upheld leaders in China, just because people don't really know what he was all about and what was going on. So the three represents is a mark in Chinese history that really is the moment when the Chinese Communist Party planted their flag and said, this is a proletarian democracy, and we are going to promote it forward, ever forward, in our ultimate goal of reaching communism. They'll do that through the development, representing the development trend in China's advanced productive forces, representing the orientation of China's advanced culture, and representing the fundamental interest of the overwhelming majority of the Chinese people. And that is the three represents, the ushering in of the age of proletarian democracy. Thank you all for watching. The next episode, we'll be talking about the scientific outlook on development, codified during the era of Hu Jintao, who was a much more controversial figure. Anyway, thank you, solidarity, and I really appreciate everyone who came in and watched this live. I know I streamed very early, but I have things to do today. But I also thank those who are going to come and watch this later. I do appreciate y'all. All right. Goodbye, y'all.